Hello. I am not feeling super great this weekend. I have some sort of stomach thing going on, and then generally it's just raining again, and it's been raining so much this winter. So I am going to read a play. It is something that I've been doing a lot of genealogy research recently, and I've been looking a lot into my great-grandmother. I was thinking it would be fun to combine this really intense new interest of mine, this genealogy research, with my much more consistent long-term interest of reading. If I could find books mentioned somehow in the research with her. And I did find a newspaper article of a play that she was in when she was in high school. It is called The Hoodoo, a Farce in 3 Acts by Walter Ben Hare. This is now in the public domain, so I'm able to read it for free. I'm using Google Play Books. It's from 1913, and she played a character, Lulu. So I don't know how problematic this play is, but I'm interested in learning. A little concerned, but we shall see. I also found this other musical comedy that she was in called Sweetheart Town, but I cannot for the life of me find any copy of this. I know it is a musical, but I would think that I would still be able to find it written down somewhere. It seems like maybe it was something a little bit more local to the Midwest. I did find a playbill of a local play of Sweetheart Town, so I can see what the songs were and stuff like that, but that's gonna involve a little bit more research. And anyway, I think I'm gonna start reading The Hoodoo. And again, hopefully it's not super offensive. Well, hello. I don't feel well. This is my lunch break from working from home sick. I wanted to give an update about this terrible play that I've been reading. So I was mentioning this is because I've been doing some work with genealogy, and I found a newspaper article that said my great-grandmother was in this play. It's called The Hoodoo, so I was a little worried about it, you know. She played a character named Lulu. Lulu is a maid, so I was like, oh, a little concerned there, right? It says she's in a conventional maid's costume in Act 1. And then Act 2, she's in a gray dress. She starts off the play entirely, and she's cleaning up for, I think, a wedding. The character she interacts with first is Aunt Paradise, and Aunt Paradise is the part of this that is concerning. It's quite bad, because in the description of the character, quite a lot of this is offensive, so I don't really want to read it out loud, but I'll just say you're supposed to use dark brown grease paint to play the character, and basically what I would have had in my fears for this type of a play. So I'm a little, disappointed. It's almost incomprehensible imagining a teenage version of this great-grandmother of mine acting across from somebody in blackface. It's not the best. Basically how history goes, I guess. I mean, you don't get to choose who your ancestors were or what they were involved in. I bet if I go far enough back, we'll have some worse stuff, you know. I just wanted to read a fun book. I'm gonna read this and fall asleep. My stomach's all fucked up, and I have this head cold, so I don't think they're related. I think maybe the most common relation is that I've just been incredibly stressed out. Oh, I'm dying. Hello. I'm not doing well. I'm sick still, but hi. I'm not working today because I'm sick. One moment, I'm gonna get a cup of decaf. Just wait for me, please. Wait, don't whine. I'm boring. I'm gonna be boring. I'm sick as fuck, Clove. What do you want from me? What do you want from me? I went to bed at like 8, maybe last night. It's at 11. I got up 6:30, I think, to feed the animals, because otherwise I'm a hostage in my own home. Then yeah, I went back to sleep. Just woke up now. My head hurts real bad. My guts have been hurting off and on. I think the guts are separate issue. Otherwise, I just have like a lot of sinus pressure. Anyway, I'm pretty sure I have a fever. I had a bunch of crazy dreams. I've been reading the Hoodoo. I think that's what it's called. It is somewhat entertaining, I will say. The racist parts of it, obviously not my favorite. They're pretty, it's so jarring. It's so jarring because there are some funny jokes in here, genuinely. And then fucking Aunt, whatever her name is. She's Aunt P as like the shorthand. One thing about reading plays is they shorten all of the names, and then it's a little bit confusing when you get further in. Which usually you'd be able to read a play in one sitting, but it's been like 6 sittings for me because I'm ailing. Dude, I read like half a paragraph last night and then fell straight asleep, left the lamp on and everything. Aunt Paradise. So everything with Aunt Paradise in it, unfortunately, is really offensive and awkward. Can't do anything about that. But what is it about? So there's a wedding. There's a wedding that's about to happen. There's this guy named it's like a pun. Brighton Early. His name is Brighton Early. He is marrying this lady, Amy Lee, I think is her name. There's this maid, Lulu. She's like, she got caught kissing like some old man. It was weird. Bright's friend, Billy, he's also been kissing like a ton of girls, and he keeps telling all the girls that he's like they're like the most important one to him or whatever. Like everybody knows that he's unfaithful. He's a mess. And I'm also surprised that there's such explicit like cheating and making out and stuff going on in this book. It's kind of wild, especially when it was put on by a bunch of high school students, and it's like really racy in my opinion. Then there's a guy who's Bright's like only living relative. I'm pretty sure he's like an uncle or something, and he's a professor. And this is like the part of it that I find really funny. He has all of these children and a wife, and they're all named like these ridiculous names, and he's like clearly really into Egyptology, and his kids are named after like Egyptian figures. And he has this like scarab brooch, which is like the hoodoo, will like curse you if you don't bury it in dirt first. And Bright decides, hey, I'm the luckiest man alive. I'm like so good right now. Let's test this theory out. I'm not gonna bury it. And lo and behold, his ex, who he was like in a committed like long distance, I think, relationship with her, like he was in love with her 2 years prior. He sent all of these letters to her, and she has brought them all with her to the wedding, even though she wasn't invited. And she has like all of these confessions from him of his love for her, and also proposals of marriage, which she declined at the time. And so she wants to break up this marriage by making a big scene out of these previous proposals and getting it into the news. And the family that he's marrying into won't want that to happen, so they'll call it off. And she wants $30,000, which I'm thinking $30,000 is like a ton of money now. If somebody was blackmailing me for that much money, it would have to be something huge in order for me to pay them $30,000 now. So I'm like, geez Louise, how the fuck much was $30,000 then? Different people are now putting on the brooch and like getting a little taste of the curse. That's pretty much what's happening. There's also somebody stealing things, and I don't really know what's going on there. So there's like a lot going on. There's a lot of characters. There are funny lines. I'm gonna eat some food, I guess, and
I don't know, my headache just came in a really big wave and then it's gone. So I think I'll just wait and see if it comes back, and then if it comes back, I'll take something for it. I think I can finish reading this today though. So, goodbye.
I have my little cat Gordon with me. I don't think he's gonna show himself, but I wanted to say that I have gotten to a point in this play which passes the Bechdel test. And it may have passed it earlier, but I just noted it quite strongly because there's a bunch of women and they're all talking about women's suffrage and if they're like for or against it. And there are some zingers in this. For example, Miss L. This country is far behind several of the European countries in the matter of suffrage. Why, in Denmark, they even have women soldiers and women sailors. Dodo. Women sailors? Just imagine women sailors in this country. If they were on a ship and someone called out, "A sail! A sail!" every woman would be looking for the bargain counter and wondering if they were going to give trading stamps. It's so ridiculous, but I kind of like it. I kind of like this conversation. The idea of like, well, I trust my husband to vote for me, and like, so I'd rather have a husband before I have the vote and stuff like that. It is interesting having these different perspectives of these different women, but I'm also, I mean, like, this was written by a man, so I'm assuming it does not represent women very well. I'm gonna keep reading this and then fall asleep again because I feel like death. Hello. You may have noticed I'm not sick in bed for this update. I am pretty much okay now. I'm still pretty sure that I had a cold, and I am now trying to avoid catching COVID from my husband. I don't recall at all where I left off. I did finish reading the Hoodoo. I feel like I didn't give an update about finishing the Hoodoo. I don't recall a lot of last week. The play itself is okay. It is a comedy and there are some fun aspects to it. So now I have a cup of tea. This is the coolest mug. This is the coolest mug. It is the County of Los Angeles Coroner's Department mug, and it says skeletons in the closet, and it has like a little chalk outline. So there's a schmeeb here. Okay, sorry. I've broken that relationship. So Dodo is trying to blackmail her ex for money. She wants money. Professor Spigot is like really into Egyptology, and his whole family is like Egyptian names. It's very over the top. Like, his son is Hemicus. And there's this fun aspect to the play where the pin gets worn by various people throughout the play. And so those various people start to have the really bad luck. And then like other people start to like recover from their bout of bad luck. That's the whole concept, and I think it is a good idea for a comedy, and it was comedic. There's a few aspects that I thought were really interesting historically. I guess the first and the one that I would love to not talk about is the whole blackface part of it. I knew that there was going to be questionable material when I'm reading something from like the 1910s. There was also discussion of women's suffrage. So that was like a topical thing. This play was put on in 1925, I'm pretty sure, at a high school. And so at that point, I'm not sure how topical it would have been, I guess. I guess I should really look into the history of that. There were women discussing the concept of suffrage and the concepts of marriage. So that was interesting. It was definitely interesting to read what at least this playwright had to say, and assuming that that was something that was kind of going on in public discourse. There was also like a lot of like flirtation and like kind of like adultery and like multiple relationships going on. It felt to me kind of racy for this being a play that's going to be performed
by high school students in a small town. So that was quite interesting for me to kind of wrap my brain around. Like, I don't think we would be doing this play now. There's like a whole bunch of like making out and kisses and like implications. I don't know. It seems like a bit much to me. That is my wrap up on that whole story. It was fine, I guess. It was fine. My great-grandmother was also in a play at her high school written by the same author. I'm not really sure what the deal was there. And it's called Much Ado About Betty, a comedy in 3 acts. This was published in 1916. It is also available in the public domain, so you can read this for free if you would like. And I haven't really started yet. I've kind of tried to start and it's not really, hasn't really gone very well. This does also feature a character that is supposed to be played with blackface. He is a bellhop. We'll see how that goes. Not looking forward to it. Sorry, we got a new clock the other day. We haven't even hung it up. It's like wrapped up and I was just hearing this ticking. Anyway, it's the Telltale Heart. So it's been a while since I've given an update on the genealogy-based reading. I have been reading Much Ado About Betty for eons. It's supposed to be like just like a few hour play, like really short, a play, and it, wow, has taken me so long to read, and a lot of that has to do with it's my before bed reading. It's what I've been reading every night before I go to bed, and it has been making me pass out immediately. Like, I'll get through like half a page or just one full page and then I'll just be dead asleep. So that has been my reading experience. I was not able to power through it at all. I've done some looking into Walter Ben Hare. He wrote many a problematic play. Act 1 was in like an entirely different setting, so different, such a different story entirely. It was really jarring, honestly. There is a character that is supposed to be played in blackface in the latter part of the play. There was something about that character and the way that he was written that felt a little less bad compared to Aunt. I can't remember these plays for the life of me. In the Hoodoo, the character that was supposed to be played in blackface just felt quite a bit more problematic. She was more prominent in the play and she had many lines, so it was really able to showcase like the way that she was written and how she was put in for like comedic effect. In this play, I didn't get that as much, I don't think. But this play was a mess. It was a mess. It was genuinely so confusing. And I guess if I saw this as a play, I would get it. But reading it, oh wow. The characters, first of all, the characters were really indistinct compared to the Hoodoo, where the characters all had like their own thing going on. There were a few main ones who were very distinct. In this play, there's one real main character, and that's Betty, and we're basically following her story. Her story is she's a young actress. There are a lot of men who have fallen in love with her and who've been like trying to throw themselves at her. But she has somebody who's kind of been fielding these men and like declining them for her without her knowledge. And this is where I really don't understand like who is doing what. Because there's this man who has like an interest in Betty not getting married before she turns 19. Because if she doesn't get married, he'll get some portion of her inheritance. And then there's this woman who's been caring for Betty in some way, and
I think she's the woman who's been like fielding these advances. Then she's like against this guy who wants the inheritance money. So she helps Betty try to get married. And then there's this whole thing of like they want to go to Florida. They're wherever they are, like Manhattan or something, in some apartment, and then they're like magically they're in like Miami or wherever the heck they are in Florida. In the course of the trip, there was some tragic like train accident or something, I don't even know, and Betty is like missing. And I don't even know who's like able to look for her. I was very confused about that. And like she has gotten married. So it turns out Betty has like severe amnesia and she doesn't remember who she is at all. And there's this woman, I have no idea who she is. Her name is Violet Ostrich, and she's like had a bunch of ex-husbands, and she has also recently gotten married. And so for some reason Betty has the old luggage of Violet Ostrich. So when the doctor is treating Betty, he's like, "You're Violet. Do you remember anything about your life?" And he's like, "This is your husband." Or like, not even this is your husband. It's like, these are your mother and father-in-law. And then she meets who her husband is supposed to be, which is actually Violet Ostrich's husband. And he is like, who are you? But his parents are like, "We love her." I don't know. Super confusing. Then Violet, the real Violet Ostrich, comes along and she's like, "This is my husband." And then like all is resolved. Genuinely so bad. Genuinely so bad. Especially compared to the Hoodoo, which, although very problematic, had like a fairly good story structure and like the kind of swapperoos of like different characters having bad luck and like the consequences of like what could go wrong for each of them. It just felt a lot more like established and well written. And I just can't imagine that this structure for this play having like a cast of high school students. I just can't imagine. There weren't that many characters that like mattered. I don't know. I just felt like it was very strange, and the comedy in this was like just not for me. I don't know, the payoff was really bad. I don't think if I had read it like much faster, like if I read it in one sitting, that I would be like, wow, that was okay. I think it was bad. That was how that went. I think this is gonna basically end the reading vlog of reading these two plays that my great-grandmother had starred in when she was in high school. It was an interesting experience because these are works that people aren't seeking out. It's not like people really know these. They aren't classics. They have not aged well. It's definitely been interesting reading older work that has kind of been put away and put to rest. Kind of for a good reason, you know? Like, they're just not good. I would love to continue in some way with trying to read from associations with my ancestors and kind of seeing what they were exposed to. I just think it really colors what people were surrounded with, the kind of ideas that they would have held due to the media that they were consuming and that kind of thing. That is my experience. Hello, it's me from the future, far ahead of me being sick and me reading these plays, because clearly I thought that I was going to do like some sort of like sit down wrap up kind of thing for this experience, and I've just edited all my clips together and realized I never filmed such a experience wrap up, so I shall do so now. An update about my really intense interest in this genealogical research. That has now been overtaken by me doing so much yard work
and really, really doing a lot of gardening for spring. I have not found any other reading material since the 2 plays for my great-grandmother. So I don't have anything planned for continued genealogical reading. But again, I love the idea, and it really did give me really quite a bit more historical perspective. She was in high school in the 1920s, right? Like, kind of think about what the 1920s were like in terms of the media that we still have around from that time. But there's the things that we don't want to continue on through our history, like these plays that prominently feature, or as a side character feature, blackface. Wrapping up this whole experience, I don't regret reading these pieces. Overall, it was quite an educational experience. It was eye-opening in terms of the era in which she lived and the media that she was exposed to, like what was acceptable to perform in a school play. From a historical perspective, it was quite interesting. And then from like a personal, like family perspective, it did give me a bit more context for what she would have been exposed to as a younger person. Do I recommend that you read either of these plays? Probably not. Do I recommend that you go through this experience yourself if possible? And if those resources are available to you, I think it could be really interesting, but probably not fun or like exciting. You know, it's probably not going to be that great because we tend to see that things are less equitable and stuff the further we go in the past. Unless we go really far and then we get into like natural human existence, and that does different things. So those are my feelings. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you've ever done anything similar to this before, if you've looked into your ancestry and somehow read something associated with them. I know sometimes people have like family journals and stuff that they can read from their ancestors, which is so impressive that that gets passed down along generations. I would love to hear your experiences with reading works associated with your ancestry. So thanks again so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, consider sharing it with a friend who you think would also enjoy it. Consider liking and subscribing, and I will talk to you again soon.